Hey everybody, what is going on to everybody out there in Arsenal and Spurs land? Big game tomorrow, massive North London derby. Isn't it funny? Even when they're not playing for nothing, they're still playing for something. So it's going to be a huge game, and we're here to preview it and look to see and break down what's actually going to happen. Andy, how are you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. You?
Yeah, doing good. As you guys know, Andy is our Spurs correspondent from the Premier League podcast we have on Friday. How are you feeling about this game, Andy?
It's one of those where you have absolutely no idea what to expect. I mean, literally, we could go there and roll you over. We could go there and you could roll us over. It's one of those. It just depends how we turn up on the day. I was encouraged by our first half performance against Chelsea last week, and then obviously not by our second half performance. You just don't know sometimes what you're going to get from Spurs in 45 minutes. And I know obviously you guys have the same issues as well. So it could be anything, but I'm happy to hear that Mora's back training, because I would hope that Mora will be back in the starting lineup tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, funny thing you said that. I've done everything in terms of prep. It's set to line the starting lineups up of what it possibly might be. So I'm just going to quickly do that now. Let's have a look. It should take me a couple of seconds. Here we go. There's Spurs, and here's Arsenal. Here we go. Right, guys. So welcome to everybody out there. I hope you guys are all doing well. And give us your thoughts and what you think of the game tomorrow. We've got Gerard here. Gerard says 2-0 to the Arsenal and another clean sheet. Everybody is saying 2-0 because they want us to jump. That's what we need in order to jump Spurs. So I don't think you'll find a single Arsenal fan that is going to actually say that it's going to be less than 2-0. Kuke saying this will be... This guy's rude. Kuke said this will be one of the worst North London derbies in recent memory. Two of the worst teams in the league in terms of creating. Actually, that's not true. And we'll look at that in a second. Good chances. A snooze fest awaits. Maybe Xhaka can get sent off and make it interesting. Bro, if Xhaka plays, we're doomed. Yeah, it's as simple as that. If Xhaka plays, we're doomed. We ain't going to win that game. Well, his ban is finished. He was banned for Burnley, Norwich.
He's available.
Yeah, he's available. That's right. Yeah, he's back.
I think he'll play.
Well, if he is, it'll be just in time to cock it all up for us. Yeah, typical Xhaka. Kuke says it's a big for both managers, and I don't think either team is suddenly going to start carving the other one open and making chances. Truth be told, both managers would probably take a draw. Again, we'll look into the numbers in a second. Kieran, big Spurs fan. Big shout out to Kieran. Kieran says, come on, you Spurs. Big shout out to Kieran. So, guys, we have, for the game, as you guys know, it's just arrived for me a crucial time because Arsenal have gone back-to-back wins and clean sheets after just a complete and utter mess, which, quite frankly, wasn't all Arteta's fault. You know, if you take 9 players out of any team in the league and are forced to fit 5 players, half of your team with players 21 years old and under, then it don't matter who you are, you're going to struggle. If I took 9 players out of Spurs' squad and fielded 5 players who were 21 years and younger, Spurs will struggle. Unfortunately, that didn't happen to Spurs. They won their first 3 games. They were top of the league. We were bottom of the league. And
then we lost the 5, 6, 7 players, and then we did struggle.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's how it kind of works. The history between the two clubs is, you guys know, Arsenal 83 wins. There's been 54 draws and Spurs 66 wins. So Spurs are catching up. There's no doubt about it that they've been the better team over the last 4 or 5 seasons. But I think as a whole, both teams finished outside the top 6. It's not good enough for both of them, to be honest with you. I don't think any fan, whether it's Arsenal or Spurs, will sit here and say that they're satisfied with the position that they're both in. Your thoughts on that, Andy, in terms of why the teams have dropped back and what it's going to take to put them back in?
I mean, obviously Arsenal had gone from 20 odd years under Wenger, where he put them in the Champions League every year, were, however hard it is for a Spurs fan to say it, were one of the most entertaining sides in the country, with the kind of players they had at their disposal. Wenger was, a very good tactician, but he lost his way, and that obviously had a lot to do with you going to the Emirates and not having a budget and sort of trying to work within a budget for a long period of time after you moved. Spurs have recently struggled because we haven't invested in the team. I mean, Pochettino was crying out 4 years ago for investment in the team, saying that the team was coming to the end of a cycle and it needed investment earlier rather than later. He didn't get that investment. The stadium hampered our ability to invest in the team, or at least Levy and Lewis weren't prepared to put their money in their pockets to buy players. They were building the infrastructure of the club. Different fans you'll speak to will think different things about whether they hate Levy and Lewis or whether they respect what they've built at Spurs and are prepared to wait for the long haul. The problem is we keep getting 5-year plans and they never quite come to fruition. So we it looks good on paper and you keep thinking, yeah, we're moving in the right direction, and then it slides and we don't actually get there. And so some of the Spurs fans or a lot of the Spurs fans are very much like, we want investment in the team now, because it's all very well having the best stadium in the world and the best training facilities in the world, etc., and you haven't got a team on the pitch that is matching that quality.
Because look at right now your net spend for the last summer was 31 million. So you did quite well in terms of players in, players out. It's a shame because I've always said to you on our Friday night podcast that I'm a big fan of Pochettino, and for me, that's where they went wrong. Sometimes managers make owners, chairmen, front offices make the wrong decisions. We've seen the merry-go-round at clubs like Watford, which is just, it's almost like they're going through 2 or 3 managers every season. And that's where it shows you that policy doesn't work. Whereas at Chelsea, it shows you kind of where it does work, because it's the same thing with them. They'll likely play with 2 or 3 managers in a season if they have to get the right result. But it's always worked out for them. This high attrition, to me, has never been right. But Pochettino was one of those guys who would fix the problem. And could you imagine if Pochettino stayed and he had spent the type of money that you lot are spending now?
Well, we're not spending that much money now. I mean, basically, Romero, although it was billed as a £50 million transfer, best defender in Serie A last year, which is pretty good achievement because there's some pretty good defenders over there. But it's going to take him time to get up to speed and the intensity and the physicality of the Premier League. But we've actually got him on loan with the option to buy. We haven't actually spent 50 million on him. Now, we may well go ahead and do that, next year, but it's not been spent yet. Golini's coming on loan. We sent Lamela to Seville as part of the Brian Gill deal, and I think he's probably the most exciting signing that we've made. I do like the look of Brian Gill. Again, it might take him a bit of time to get up to the physicality of the league, the intensity, but he looks like a real quality player to me, and I think he's someone to give us excitement to look forward to. So I think we've made some decent signings. None of it sort of blown me away or anything. We could have made better signings, but at the end of the day, if you're working within a budget, and it would appear that we are, then you've got to accept that's what the budget is, and you get the best for what you can get for the money. I do like the look of Paratici. He clearly knows,
quality,
the market abroad very well, and we've been linked with lots of players. But this is historically true. We get linked with everyone and their mother, and then who we actually get over the line isn't quite the ones that you were being linked with during the window.
It's true, because obviously you had a look at Tomlyasu before you made another purchase.
The point was that in the end they went for Royal.
Yes.
I think Tomlyasu came to you very, very late, and he came to you very, very late because we decided to go. We were looking at Royal and Tomlyasu, and we decided to go for Royal. The moment we decided to go for Royal, Tomlyasu decided to sign for you.
Yeah.
As I understand it, he was happy to come to us, but we went the other way, and then he had very little time left to make a decision to come to you. But I think he's a decent player. I think he's a decent signing. But again, I'm not sure he's going to, be up in lights or anything like that. I think he's a decent player, but I'm not sure he's going to set the world alight. Emerson Royal could be very good. I do wonder sometimes when some of these players come to us. I get the impression he didn't really want to come. I think he's happy. I think he's happy enough at Spurs. I don't think he's sort of unhappy he's come, but I think he would have preferred to stay at Barcelona by choice. They kind of forced him out of the door because they needed the money, and we offered it. So
I think that's a situation Arsenal have been in. We have had to in the last year deal with players like Saka, Lacazette at the moment. He doesn't really want to be here. Bernd Leno doesn't want to be here. Cedric Soares doesn't want to be here. Klasnach, we know he's been trying to move for the last 18 months. So we've got 5 or 6 players at the team right now that don't even want to be here. And yeah, it's great that we got rid of Bellerin and David Luiz wanted to play Champions League football. He still hasn't got that sorted out. But when you've got players like that, the manager knows, regardless of what he wants from the players, some players just don't want to be there, and they have to do a job in finding that. Karen says, "We will see tomorrow."
We've got that. We've got that in Kane and Ndombele. Both Kane and Ndombele wanted to leave in the summer. There's no doubt about that. But the fact is, they are both real. They're both top class players, and Levy was demanding big money for both of them, and no one was prepared to pay that kind of money. I don't necessarily blame Levy for holding out for big money, because I think Kane in particular, he's worth it, and Ndombele is possibly yet to prove his price tag, but in glimpses he looks sensational. It's just that he doesn't seem to do it consistently over 90 minutes. In fact, he doesn't always do it consistently over 45 minutes. So it's like you see something brilliant from him, and then there's something negative that kind of comes alongside it. But I'm hoping that as time goes by and Ndombele can rediscover some of the form that he showed for a period of time last year, and can at least put the work in, so that if he really does still want to leave, the better he plays for us, the more likely it is that one of the bigger clubs that he thinks he deserves is going to come in for him.
So before I get your opinion on your wage bill at the moment, which looks fantastic, by the way, it's half that of Man City's. Some of the guys here giving us their thoughts on the predictions. Kieran says 3-1 to Spurs. That's brilliant in terms of the fact that Spurs have hardly had a result there in 16 years. I think they've only beaten us once at the Emirates in the league. So that would be... I wouldn't put it past them to get a 3-1 result, just because Arsenal are just so erratic at the moment. Cool Case says 2-0 to the Gooners. Lucas says, what's going on, Luca? Big shout out. You remember me from Arsenal? Of course I remember you, bro. I sent you a message the other day to ask you if you want to come on one of our live vlogs. They're always welcome to get you on, mate. Lucas says it would be 2-2. 18 says it's going to be 1-1. So we've got a few guys swinging to Spurs, swinging to Arsenal. A couple of you have said it's a draw. Andy, what's your this is a remarkable wage bill, by the way. We were at 282 million last summer, and we've got rid of 21 players. And not just that, but the 5 players that we've told in the new year who are free to go and find another team, Chambers, El Nene, Lacazette, Nketiah, we've got quite a lot of players. That's another 36 million off our wage bill. So if we said goodbye to those players and allowed them to go for free, Arsenal's wage bill would be below 200 million for the first time in about 15 years. Yeah. So
as we know, the things that you have to give Levy credit for is to have a team as good and as competitive as we have been for as long as we have, even though we have slipped in the last 2 seasons. But all through the last 6, 7, 8 years from the beginning of Pochettino, we had a team where our budget was about 40%, 40 to 50% on wages of turnover. And that's a pretty, I mean, a lot of the clubs are running at 70, 80%. Some of them, the Spanish ones were like over 100%.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Levy does run Spurs as a business. For that, you have to give him credit for how he financially manages the club. We are one of the top, the Deloitte top 10, money teams in Europe. I understand that. The problem is we're getting to the point now where the fans don't want to take this anymore. They're kind of saying, look, we want some trophies in the cabinet. We don't want the Spursy tag anymore. We don't want the nearly men tag. We don't want to finish runners up anymore. We want to get over the line and we want to win some trophies. Yeah. Now, Levy has said time and time again, patience, patience, patience. We're building, we're building, we're building. At some point, you want to see the evidence of the building. Now, at the moment, I think we've got a nucleus. We've got rid of some very good older players. I mean, the reason we've kept the wages low is we've got Alderweireld off the wage bill. We've got Lamela off the wage bill.
Vertonghen.
I mean, that was a bit before. But I'm talking about even this summer. But Alderweireld, Vertonghen. We moved on Joe Hart. I'm not saying he was on big wages, but we moved him on. We got rid of a lot of the over 30s in the club. There's only Lloris and Davis left now. The rest are all, either in their prime at sort of 27s, 28s, like Kane and Son and people like that, or we've got very, very young players. I mean, you look at the nucleus of, we filled the back four at Palace the other week once Dyer went off, of Reguilon, Tanganga, Rodon and Royal. I mean, they were all like 20, 23, 22, 23 years old. Average age was like 23 at back four. So there is a lot of promise. And Ndombele's still 24, 25. Ali's still 25. There's still a lot of, when you think of the experience that some of them have got at a very young age, arguably we've got, but I still think we're missing top class. What gets me, being, as you know, I love the beautiful game, we don't really create very much.
Yeah, we're gonna look into that when we come to the analysis. Yeah,
we've got an organised team. We've got world-class strikers in Kane and Son. Anyone would tell you they're two of the top 10 in Europe without question, right? Anyone would have them in their team, for the right price. But
so the answer for me there is it's got to be down to the manager and the tactics. That's the biggest change.
I mean, because the weird thing I think is it was a strange choice going for Mourinho off the back of Pochettino, because you couldn't really get too stark a contrast in managerial styles between Pochettino's blockbuster, swashbuckling, high press, high possession. We used to have 60% plus possession stats under Pochettino in all the games, apart from possibly against City or someone like that. We kept the ball. We created. We had stuff. We had Eriksen and people like that. Really good quality players, and that changed under Mourinho to being a counter-attack team, sit back, react to everything, not being proactive. And Levy said when he got rid of Mourinho, we're going to go for the Spurs way. To dare is to do. We're going to go for it. We're going to have someone that's in the Spurs style. He clearly couldn't get the people that he wanted to actually come in and do that, and then basically seems to have settled for Nuno. And I've got a lot of time for Nuno. I think he's a very well organised coach. I think he's an educated guy. I think he's a pretty decent manager. Yeah,
because they were struggling to find the manager, wasn't they?
Good point. And I think given that, given the position we found ourselves in, given that like the first 89 people we wanted weren't available, the fact is I think Nuno was a sensible choice at that moment in time. The problem is his style is not too dissimilar to that of Mourinho's. It might be a bit more, attacking, but there's not a lot in it. And I don't really see him playing the way that Spurs fans want to play. However, my view is these people calling for his head after 5 games, it's nonsense. It's not it's not necessarily the football I want to see, but you've got, once he's appointed, you've got to give the guy a year. You can't just say, oh well, after 6 games, that's not what I want to see. Give the guy.
Yeah, I agree.
He hasn't had a chance yet.
Yeah, we're in that position where Arteta's been there 18 months. But I think what Arsenal fans have completely missed is the inept players, the bad culture, the poor effort in the team, and of course the horrible away record. Now, regardless whether his record's better than Emery or not, he's fixed most of those things. The culture has been completely changed. Players are just told, "Look, you're no longer needed." And while it might hurt with a few players that the club really likes, if the manager doesn't think that those players have got the right attitude, he won't pick them. The defense was the third-ranked best defense in the league. We're winning away games, which is something we couldn't do under Emery and Wenger. And the squad is they're working much harder off the ball than they ever have in the last decade that I've seen them play, even under Wenger. Under Wenger, we were
younger players that are prepared to work harder.
Of course, yeah.
The issue you've had, as I've identified in previous podcasts, is you don't really have. I don't see many leaders in your team.
Yeah,
and I think you've got a lot of good nucleus of decent young players, but have they got those older heads that can help bring them on?
Yeah, I think that if we struggle, that's where we're going to be struggling now, which is leadership. So let's talk about squad news. For Arteta, he's got a luxury of a fully fit squad to choose from. I think Aaron Ramsdale is going to keep his place after coming in for Bernd Leno, keeping 2 clean sheets against Norwich and Burnley. Lacazette, despite boasting 4 goals in his last 6 against Spurs, I'm not sure if he's going to be in there. It would be harsh to see Lokonga dropped since he's been just a revelation in the midfield. We know Arteta's love for Xhaka, but Xhaka
last game Lokonga, did he?
He played. He came on. Yeah, he came on as a bench. That's because we play Smith Rowe. It's a 4-3-3, so you have to make that choice of what you're going to do as a pivot in the midfield, and then how that's going to affect the front three. We played a single pivot with Partey, and that allowed us to not use Sambi and play Smith Rowe. I'm not sure whether that worked or not. I mean, the jury's out on that. But I think in this game, we might either keep the same single pivot, or if they bring Xhaka back, it would be a double pivot. But even in a double pivot, Xhaka's going to cost you. How many times does this guy let the club down? And yet they're still pick. You're not going to learn nothing from this guy, except for how much he's let you down over the last 4 years. And quite frankly,
he's a very experienced Swiss international, and he's played some great games over the years. I mean,
I'm glad you said Swiss international and great games.
I hope he plays and he proves you right and sets up 2 goals for us. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's why Spurs fans want him to play. Go on. So go on.
I mean, talking about your team, I think Xhaka will. I think he'll be tempted to play Xhaka because of the possible importance of the game. I mean, if we beat you tomorrow, that's not a good start for you. I know you got off to a bad start, got hammered 5-0, 2-0, 2-0. City you can take, I understand that, but losing to Brentford, losing at home to Chelsea. I mean, again, Chelsea's a decent team. They beat us last week, but I think if you were to lose to us tomorrow, basically you've had 2 1-0 lethargic 1-0 wins against Norwich and Burnley.
Well, actually, the Burnley. I think the Norwich game was lethargic. I think the Burnley win was a good win. It was a great win because not many teams go up to Turf Moor and win.
They had chances, Burnley.
Yeah, I mean, but as I said, not many teams go up to Turf Moor and win. And we always struggle up there, and we put in a good game plan that worked. And a lot of that came down to Gabriel and Aaron Ramsdale, and the goal by Odegaard was just exquisite. But it showed you today, Burnley was away to Leicester City and nearly beat them had it not been for Vardy with a last-minute goal. So that's the team. You know, Arsenal fans will say what you just said. It's only Burnley. It's like, but Burnley nearly beat a top team today who's just missed out on the Champions League for the last 2 years. So this is the Premier League. Doesn't matter who you play. It's always going to be a tough game. So I give the team a lot of credit for beating Burnley last week because that's never an easy game.
It's never an easy game. I just think that Burnley aren't as strong or don't appear to be as strong, started as strongly this year as they have been, towards the end of last season, for example. But I mean, again, at the end of the day, you've got to get the 3 points, and you've got the 3 points, and fair play to you for that. I think tomorrow's game for both teams is big, and for different reasons, we both want to win it really badly. I mean, if we win it, we're like 2 points behind Liverpool at the top.
Yeah, I know. I think someone just said that in the comments there.
The top half of the table is going to be separated by like 3-4 points. Do you know what I mean? There's not a lot in it, and I was worried like a week or two ago that we were going to fall like 6, 8, 9 points behind.
Yeah.
But beat you tomorrow, and we're banging the mix now.
Exactly.
We're going to win the league. Well, our squad isn't strong enough to do that, but we still, obviously, every Spurs fan is praying that somehow, by hook or by crook, one of the big four have a bit of a bad season or a bad spell.
Yeah.
Somehow you get a way to sneak into the top four and get that fourth spot and get back in the Champions League. Because from both clubs' perspectives, the problem we have attracting the top class players without being in the Champions League has been there for all to see. When you're in the Champions League, all the players, they want to come and play in the Premier League and play in the Champions League. They're the two things they want to do. We haven't got Champions League football. It's very hard to attract.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're then either shopping for potential players that want to improve their careers but are still very young, and then you're taking a bit of a gamble, like we've done with one or two players, like you've done with one or two players. They might turn out to be brilliant. They might not work out. And it's problematic, but also your best players want to leave to go and play in the Champions League, like we
exactly. So it's a push and pull situation, isn't it?
That's the problem. So somehow, I think it's going to be hard with the top four spending what they have and being as strong as they are. But that's every Spurs fan's hope, is that somehow we find a way to push ourselves towards the top four. I think it's probably going to be a stretch this season. But
the thing is, the best chance that you have for getting into Europe is the European competition you're in. Because when I look at the amount of teams that are in there, the only one to fear really is Roma. I mean, you could easily go and win that, and that's your ticket back into the Europa League.
In the Europa League, but I would hope that we would qualify for the Europa League through the league. I thought we underperformed last season. But you've only got to look at how many times we threw away leads late in games last season.
I know, yeah.
We could quite easily have got another 6 points last season. We'd have been in the Champions League.
And we were really good with leads. In our last 21 games where we were leading, we've won 18 of them and drawn 3. So Arsenal's problem is getting on the score sheet. That's where our biggest problem is. Let me see what these guys are saying, and I'll look at the Spurs team sheet. 18 says, Andy, my guy, best Spurs fan ever. Kuke says, Mikel knows the stakes on this one. So do the players. A loss, draw here, and he's a game away from being sacked. How much time are you going to say that, bro? He ain't getting sacked for that. It says 2 wins, a draw, a defeat in the last 4 league games won't get him the sack. That's Greg. That's G. He says he needs to drop points in one of those other 2 games for that to be a reality. Let's be real here. I agree. 5 points off the top of the table if we win this 2-0, he says. Kuke says apparently Lucas Moura has trained at least yesterday, so he might feature on the bench. Berdwig and Session are out.
Bergwijn and Session are out, but Moura is looking like he's back.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. But for me, if Moura's fit, Moura's got to play. And I mean, I was there last Sunday when, obviously, we don't want to talk about that result, but I was there to watch us last Sunday, and the first half was really encouraging. And then we made a mistake. Silver goal, and once Chelsea are ahead 1-0 with the team they've got now, it all kind of fell apart. And that was what I didn't like, was how the heads went when we went behind. I didn't see any real fight and desire to get back on terms. It was like they were a little bit lost, and they didn't know what they were doing at that point.
And we're going to have a look at the analysis and stats in a minute. Some really interesting figures there. And Kieran said, you watching the fight tonight? Yeah, definitely going to be watching that fight, bro. David says, Polo, how good can Ramsdale be? I think Ramsdale can be one of the best. I made a video on him last week. I wasn't the biggest fan. I would have bought Sam Johnston from West Brom. That's what I would have done. I would have actually bought David Raya from Brentford the year before that. But when I've looked at Aaron Ramsdale, when I looked at his style, he has got an all-round game. He distributes the ball well. He's second in the league coming out for balls on set pieces and corners in terms of catches. Only Emi Martinez, who I rate as the best goalie in the league, has come out for more crosses. Out of the last 200 shots, Aaron Ramsdale is ranked 2 in the Premier League, so he's a good shot stopper. I think he'll probably turn out to be, he might be another David Seaman, though they definitely saw what they saw in him, and I didn't like how much they paid for him, but, you know, what's done is done. I can't change that. But I couldn't see why they bought him. Now I can, especially after seeing the performances. What he done to Burnley last week to shut off their Route 1 strategy was just brilliant. He changed the game for us last week. That's why I gave him man of the match. Mr. Bungle says Spurs won't beat us tomorrow. They very rarely do, mate. And then he says it'll be a draw. Oh man, and then Kieran says, I'll catch you tomorrow after the game if you're streaming. Yeah, I'm going to be at the Emirates, but those guys are going to be here streaming live. My wife is going to help get the production done on that. So let's take a look at the Spurs news. Obviously, solid performances against Wolves came from the youngsters. Is it Tangana? And Brian Gill. Oliver Skip was the other guy who I thought was really. And that's what Spurs need to do. I thought you got 3 players there. You know, we've seen what's happened with Smith Rowe, Saka, and you know, and obviously we sold Joe Willock, so we can't include them. But then Maitland-Niles and other guys that we have, and we've seen what's happened with the development of those players, and Nketiah, who scored a brilliant goal in midweek as well. And then you see Spurs bringing players in like this, and it's just fantastic to see. Now, I think the one I can point out is Skip. He's a Kabiscuit because he's appeared in all 5 of Tottenham's Premier League games, so keep an eye on him, everyone. But I think Tangang is, how do you spell it? Tanganga?
It's Tanganga.
Tanganga, yeah, he's suspended, I think so, or is it Gill?
He's available.
So maybe it's Gill that's suspended.
He was suspended for the Chelsea game, but he's available for tomorrow.
Yeah. So I think the only thing, Steve Birdwig and Sessegnon, I think they might be sidelined. So I'm not actually sure what team you're going to pull up. But what's your thoughts on the team sheets? Are you happy with where you are at the moment?
My thoughts are that he quite possibly will go for the same starting lineup as he did against Chelsea, with the possibility of changing Moura for Lo Celso. I could see Moura coming back in on the right, because to me, Lo Celso didn't look happy playing out on the right-hand side. I didn't think it really suited him. And we need the pace on the break. And I think Moura is more suited to doing that. So I suspect Moura will come in if he's fit. The dilemma is going to be what he does whether he plays Ali and Ndombele, or whether he chooses to use Skip, because he left Skip on the bench against Chelsea and then brought him on in the second half.
Yeah.
And Ndombele rarely lasts 90 minutes, or he certainly hasn't done, but he's been behind the others in terms of the fitness progression.
So we'll have a look at the team sheets after we finish the analysis here. So as you can see with the analysis, first of all, let's talk about Arsenal. Now, Arsenal here, as you can see, goals scored only 2, which is 18th in the league. Expected goals 5.7, which is 12. Chances created. Now, this is what I wanted to challenge all Arsenal fans about. Arsenal have scored twice, but they've created 59 chances. Only 4 teams have created more chances than Arsenal this season. And every game I keep saying to people, guys, don't worry. At least, you know, one game we had 30 shots and only scored 1 goal. And the fact is, when you create that many chances, it doesn't really matter about the goals. The goals will come. Just keep on creating those chances and things will turn around. It kind of supports the theory that Arteta's side could be on the right path, and that's what I've been saying. Yes, it's poor defensively. We've let in 9 goals, but that was because of the young team. I remember I said to you guys, 5 of them in the first 3 games was under the age of 21. since then, since Arsenal have got the Ben White and Gabriel back in, and obviously Tomlyasu and Tierney, since they've had those guys, they've had back-to-back clean sheets. So I wouldn't really read too much into the bad defensive thing yet. With the eye is still on the ball, whether they can achieve being the third best defense in the league again. But as I said, David Luiz had a lot to play with that. Also, Ramsdale is yet to concede a goal in 3 games. To me, with Xhaka, there does appear to be a lack of steel in the midfield, and that's why fans want him out. When you look at when he's not been in the league, and we've had a fit Thomas Partey with Sambi, that can go a long way in fixing those problems. I mean, Sambi against Norwich, he had 5 duels won. Duels is something that Xhaka's really weak on, and 5 recoveries. Again, with Xhaka in the team, we're last in the league in recoveries. So we don't do very well on the counter-attack with him as well. To go alongside of that, Sambi had 2 shots, and he had the highest percentage of passes on the field with 2 key passes as well. And in regards to Spurs, this is where Spurs' problem is. Let's read out what Spurs has got there. 16th in goals scored, last in the league in expected goals, second to last in shots, last in chances created, and second to last in. So they're just not creating any chances. So Spurs appears to me to be struggling with getting Kane into positions. Now, Harry Kane's had 10 touches in the box in the first 5 games. Let me explain that again. He's touched the ball 10 times in the penalty area in 5 games. In the Palace loss, he only had 1 touch in the box over 90 minutes. So when you think about that, they've only created 32 chances. Man City have created 125 chances in that same time. So you can kind of see what's actually going on in regards to what Spurs are doing. Andy, let me get your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, I said earlier that our biggest issue is creativity. That we've got top class strikers, but Kane is playing. There's different schools of thought as to why Kane is literally playing everywhere apart from in the box. There's a lot of people saying, for God's sake, tell him stay in the danger area, because when we do get the ball forward, there's no one there because Kane's dropped to receive the ball. I think Kane doesn't trust the midfield to be very creative. So what he does is he drops to do the creative work himself. The problem is that then leaves a gaping hole up front, and then there's no one really to supply unless Son is bursting in, forward. So it's a kind of, and with Bergwijn and Moura getting injured, we've basically struggled, and we let Vinicius go back to Benfica. I think he's gone out on loan again somewhere else, but and we didn't then get a backup striker. I know they tried really hard at the last minute to get Traore, but that was on loan, and Wolves were never going to go for that, I don't think. And so, and I'm not even sure he would have solved the problem anyway. We do have a lack. Since Eriksen left, we do have a big lack of creativity in the team. And Ndombele was supposed to fix it. Ali should be able to do something, but he seems to be drifting on the periphery of games. That he's working much harder than he was, which is good to see, but he doesn't really seem to be affecting the games a lot. And Ndombele, again, flatters to deceive sometimes. I really want Ndombele to come into his own, because I think he has the ability to be sensational, but I don't know if he's got the application and the dedication to want to do it for us. I'm not sure, but he has been improving last couple of games. So let's give him a bit of time, and hopefully he can get there. But yes, that is the big problem we've got at the moment, is we're not being very creative. Me personally, I suspect Nuno's letting Kane decide to come deep. But if I was Nuno,
that's why I said to you, it's tactics. That's why I said to you.
I suspect it's Nuno is allowing Kane to make his own decisions as to what he needs to do. But if I was Nuno, I would be telling Kane, please stay up, give us a focal point, and then let the players play off you. You can receive it, because Kane isn't scoring goals. I mean, he's scored in the Europa Conference League playoff, and he scored on the other night against Wolves. But He's not scored in the Premier League yet this season. Now that's not particularly unusual because Kane never scores. It very rarely scores in August. If you look back at the stats, he always takes a bit of time to get going. Harry Kane, but the difference is he does always look like he's about to score, and he has much like doing that in Spain. But then again, we have played City, we have played Chelsea. You played two of the best in the country, so we've and we did win the first 3 games. So I think, a bit like the Arsenal fans as well. Sometimes Spurs fans have the tendency to go, "Oh yeah, we're the greatest team in the country," or like the worst team in the country. And the fact is, we're neither. We're one of the top half teams in the country, and there's probably not going to be a lot of difference between 5th and 10th. And you've got to try and do a bit better.
So I've got a question for you. In the final third, so it's about, we talked about Kane not getting touches in the box because there's nobody running into the box at Spurs. So in the final third, out of both teams, out of both Spurs and Arsenal, name me the top 5 players who you think makes the most sprints into the box. Who do you think makes the most sprints into the box?
Well, Spurs haven't done many sprints into the box recently, so... but I mean, it would be, I would think, when they're playing, because obviously some of them have been injured, but when they're playing, you'd say Bergwijn, Lucas Moura, Dele Alli, perhaps Ndombele and Son. That they would be the 5 that I would say are the most likely.
Out of both teams, yeah? So there's be all...
For just Spurs. Obviously, Arsenal would be a different...
Well, okay. So this is, out of both of the teams, this is the table of which players are making the most sprints into the box to get on. Number 1 is Odegaard.
That doesn't surprise me.
Number 2 is Sambi, which will surprise a lot of Arsenal fans. Sambi is just brilliant like that. Saka's number 3. Pepe doesn't shock me, number 4. And then Song at number 5. That's how many sprints that these guys have been making into the box. So
you need to understand that a lot of the Spurs attackers haven't played all the games so far this season. So just not pure number. I mean, this is why, for me, as you know, I know you're a stato king and you love it. And you love all the stats. I've always been more like, I like to watch the game, and you can tell what's going on without necessarily needing stats to back it up. I mean,
right now you're looking at a lot of confused Arsenal fans that are like, we can't create anything, and yet we're one of the top creative teams in the league, and they didn't know that.
That's the point. You scored 2 goals, so you're not being that creative. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a kind of stats can look good in one way. I mean, it's like I keep hearing people that like that. I've got nothing against Harry Winks, but he's got a 90+% pass rate. That's because every pass he does is sideways and backwards.
Yeah, it's like Saka and El Nene.
So I'm like, okay, fair enough. I've got nothing against the guy. He's done all right for us over the years, but the fact is he's not going to take us forward because he's not looking forward when he receives the ball. And I think that's why he's not really getting much game time, because I think they've decided to move him on. He decided he wanted to stay. Okay. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I like Skip, but again, Skip isn't going to do a lot going forward. He's going to protect the game. I'm interested to see what Nuno does tomorrow, whether he goes with Skip and Højbjerg as a double.
All right, let's do you first then. Now you're talking about it, let's bring that up there. Talk about the team sheet, what you think might happen and what you would change from what I've got below here.
I think Romero will play. I think Romero would probably be in instead of Sanchez. I'm not certain, but I think Romero could probably play.
You see, I put in Skip, didn't you? I put Skip in because he's played the last 5 games. Why would you bench?
He didn't start against Chelsea.
Yeah, you're right. He didn't start. Yeah.
I think Ndombele may well start.
Really?
Instead of Skip or Ali. I think Ndombele, if he chooses to play a double holding role, then I think Ndombele may start ahead of Ali, or he might just choose to bring Ndombele on. But I think, for me, that is close to what I think the team will be. The other thing is that I'm not sure. He probably will play Emerson, but I'd quite like to see Tanganga come in at right back myself.
Oh, right.
I think Emerson has looked all right, but I wouldn't be against the idea of having Tanganga instead of Emerson for this particular game. I think Tanganga understands the North London rivalry. He's a local lad, and he was playing very well earlier in the season. Before he got the sent off for Palace, he was playing very well. So me personally, I would have Tanganga in ahead of Emerson. But whether Nuno will do that, I really don't know.
Right, you've got a question. You've got a question from Dan. Dan says, "Is it true that Spurs team are still effed from Mourinho and can't pass 60 minutes? Would explain why they don't like to sprint." It's a question there for you, then.
There was certainly a problem with us fading in games under Mourinho. There's no question about that. Whereas under Pochettino, we were the fittest team in the league. We were top of all. You talk about stats. We were top of all the stats for running under Pochettino in that sort of 3-year spell when we were very, very strong. In 16, 17, 18. But we look fitter under Nuno, but I still think we've still got a way to go. There does seem to be a slight issue that whereas under Pochettino we were scoring lots of late goals. Since then, we've been conceding lots of late goals, and that is a problem which you need to address, because if you give away late goals in Premier League, you're not going to win very many matches.
Yeah. I mean, West Ham did brilliantly today against Leeds, and their fans are going nuts. That's because they just didn't expect it. But that's a rarity to see that happen, because the league is so competitive these days. Just want to get to GG says, why would he then bring Xhaka in to sit in front of that left-back space when we needed him in midfield? Also, he hasn't played since he got sent off. Yeah, because it's a 4. Yeah, there's no way he's playing left back, bro. He hasn't played since he's been sent off the 28th of August. That's basically a month without a game. He hasn't even featured in the under 21 match, 23 match. Bobby, this is Bobby Borman. Bobby says, I think you're too harsh on Xhaka, Apollo. I appreciate that his disciplinary record is awful, and I know you're upset about his antics against Palace. I'm just upset that he's not added anything to the team, to be honest with you. And if you saw my video earlier on in the week, I have said Xhaka wasn't in the team on that 5-game winning streak towards the end of last season. In the 2 games that we've just won, Xhaka wasn't a part of that. But yet the myth, which is what I told Charles Watts the other day, the myth is that this team can't play without Xhaka, and that's not true. What we do know is over the last 4 years, he's been a cog and the spine in one of the weakest midfields in the league. That's what we do know. So I appreciate that he has his fans, and there's a lot of people that loves what he does. But when you look at big chances created, assists, things like that, passes into the final third, he ranks among the lowest of the holding midfielders in the Premier League, and that is something that we have to fix as a team, regardless of names. Yeah, so if we leave Xhaka's name out of it, our midfield is one of the worst on counter-attacks, recoveries, and duels won. That's just a fact. The stats tell us that. So what do? We spend 50 million on Thomas Partey, and yeah, he hasn't been fit, so I get that. But we then bring in, we've had Ceballos and Xhaka and El Nene and all these other different, and it just hasn't worked. And we bring in Sambi Lokonga, which looks stunning. We didn't even play him against Chelsea. When you have a guy that talented, Vincent Kompany says he's among Cesc Fabregas levels. Great, yeah, but let's see it on the pitch. So far, we have seen an amazing talent on the pitch, but you didn't play him against Chelsea. And now we've got Spurs. You're going to drop him against Spurs? So you've got this talented midfielder who everyone's talking up about in Europe. And you haven't even put him to the test in the Premier League against 2 of our London rivals. That, if Xhaka plays tomorrow, I would be disappointed, not just because of Xhaka, but because Sambi hasn't got the chance to show what he can do against a top London rival. So it's more about, you all know how I feel about Xhaka, but this is a little bit more. This is about what our midfield is doing with and without Xhaka. And the wins, you can see the wins. We're winning more games without him. There's no doubt about it. It's regardless of how we feel about it. We're winning more games. We're more adaptive. We're more attacking. We create more. And over the last 15, 20 games or whatever, we've got a better win percentage with him not in the team. That's That's just how it is. He does go on to say, we don't have many passes better than it. But again, you say passes, but a lot of his passes are going sideways and backwards. What does he create? Yeah. Most times, me and Bertram and the guys on the panel, we are looking every game to see him pass a great ball. And sometimes in the last few games, he has placed a few good passes, but it's not among the levels of somebody like Pogba or Fernandes or it's nowhere near on that level. Who those guys are looking to pass every single time. Yeah, they're looking to make something happen. Thomas Partey, who's been in the single pivot. If you saw the game last week, 4 or 5 amazing 40, 50-yard passes. You're lucky if you see that once a game from Xhaka. And those are the things that just need changing. We're not good at it. We're not good on the counter-attack in terms of defending that. We're just not good creativity. So that's where it is for me. But the team sheet, do you want to finish off on the team sheet, Andy, what in terms of what you would change?
Yeah, for me on that team sheet, I would have Romero. I think if you're talking about potentially buying someone for 50 million, albeit if the money's going to be paid at the end of next season, that you've got to play him. I don't see not playing, but it wouldn't shock me if that was the team.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that maybe we would pay Romero. That I personally would have Tanganga ahead of Emerson. At the moment, I'm not saying Emerson might not become the regular right back, but I personally would have Tanganga for this game. And I would definitely have, for me, Ndombele is the one person that can make things happen in our team. He can make his bursts, his skill, his trickery. He can make things happen. He can also make mistakes, as Wolves got when they got the equaliser the other week. And Ndombele scored the first goal, but then gave away the equaliser. So it's kind of, you never know what you're going to get, but he's at least somebody that is going to try and open up the other team. So for me, I would have Ndombele in there. And possibly ahead of Skip, but potentially instead of Ali, depending on how Nuno wants to play it. But yeah, that they would be the changes I would make from the team. But it wouldn't shock me if that was the team.
For Arsenal, I would be going with Ramsdale, of course, in goal. Tommy, I'll be playing him as Tom Aston says, Ben Red. I'll be playing him as well with Gabriel and Tierney. That back five, call him a back five, because Ramsdale really does his job in terms of distribution and in terms of stopping those route ones coming in. He really, really does well. Partey's playing as a sweeper at the moment. So that unit at the moment hasn't let a goal in 3 or so games. I would have Partey and Sambi as the holding two, and then play... I would play Odegaard in front of them, and then I see midfield free. And up front, I would go Saka on the right, Aubameyang in the middle, and I'll go Pepe on the left, because when we saw that last season, it looked a hell of a lot better than having them. I don't know why Arteta changed it back.
You would have played Smith Rowe.
Well, Smith Rowe, if the thing with Smith Rowe is he played instead of Sambi last week, and they went. That's the single pivot. So the single pivot in this formation is take Sambi out and have Partey sit in front of the back four, and then put Smith Rowe in, and Smith Rowe can add to that 3-man midfield. So it would be Odegaard and Smith Rowe sitting in front of Thomas Partey, and then you'll have a front three. But that didn't work last week. I thought Smith Rowe was more disruptive and got in the way of the balance of the team in comparison to what Sambi would do. And I know they're trying to shoehorn in a lot of these players at the moment because they are the right players to play in the system. Arteta in 18 months has never known his best 11. Now we're starting to see a picture of what his best 11 looks like. So for Arsenal fans, this is good to see this balanced squad that we're playing. The intangibles, unfortunately, is Xhaka, who you have to leave out of the team, otherwise it's not progressive, and then Smith Rowe. And so someone has to struggle there. You could, in theory, take out Pepe and put in Smith Rowe. Yeah, you could in theory because he'll just give you that much more. But there's so many ways how we would go. This is how I would go.
I think Arteta will play Xhaka.
Yeah. Oh Lord. Yeah. If he plays,
I mean, I saw an interview in which he said, you know, he's been keeping fit, he's been training really hard.
yeah.
I wouldn't have any worries about throwing him back in. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I wonder whether he thinks you need his experience on the pitch.
Yeah, but I mean, and as I said, you know, all the games that we've won, we didn't have him in that team. You know, 5 games at the back end of last season when we played fantastic. Again, Thomas Partey is the MacGuffin. He's the Joker card. And in those 3 games of the season, when Arsenal fans were in misery, I stayed quiet for most of the games. And the reason why I stayed quiet is because I knew that we had 9 players out. We had 6 guys on COVID, 3 players injured. And I just kept telling people, look, wait until we get our team back and then we'll see what they're made of. And since they've been backed, they've looked way more solid in defence, better in the midfield without Xhaka, and the front guys are creating chances. As I said, it's the 4th best in the league. So the goals will come. They're just not converting. They're not clinical. And I don't know whether Lacazette is the reason for that. Lacazette was our top scorer last season, and he's got one of the better records against Spurs. So I'm not sure whether. Don't be surprised if you see Lacazette on the field tomorrow. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But Bobby says 268 passes into the final third for Xhaka last season. That was more than Rodri, Holberg, Tim. And how many assists did he have? How many big chances did he create? But he goes, he'll have to agree to disagree. But as I said, you look at the win column. Yeah. Look at how many games we've won with him. And then look how many games we've, in terms of, you had all them young players in the team. You're looking for leadership. It just isn't there. And then he gets himself sent off. That's leadership for you, yeah? Alex, big shout out to you, Alex. But yeah, that's my supposed team sheet.
What's your score prediction?
I'm going to have to go with the rest of the Gooners and say 2-0. I think it's more likely got 1-1 written all over it. But a 2-0 would put us above Spurs, knowing that we've created so many chances and Spurs are the worst in the league at creating chances. I think that we've got a chance to win 2-0. But at the same time, with a London derby, stats go all out the window. Like the only stat that I know that works well is Spurs don't play well at the Emirates. That's exactly the only thing yeah.
And that's why right at the end of the show, I'm going to put my Spurs hat on and say we're going to win 3-1.
Wow. Okay, so you and Kieran are both going for 3-1 wins. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. Alex and Bobby, before I go, can you put your predictions up there as well? Also, G, I don't think I've had a prediction from you. But a lot of Arsenal fans are saying 2-0 because that's what we need to jump them in the table. So G is coming with 2-0 to the Gunners. Not heard anything, but any closing comments from you? What would you expect? What would you like to see to impress you tomorrow?
What I would like to see tomorrow is for Nuno to be bold and to go for it, to not play the double holding role, and to just go for it, to say, look, Arsenal are not that great, and they weren't that. They built a little bit of confidence, but I honestly believe, and I know in previously in North London derbies, the first goal is actually not always a good thing.
I know. It's like that at your place as well.
Often team scores first North London derby doesn't win the match. But I believe the first goal tomorrow could be really, really key. Because I think if Arsenal get it, because Spurs are struggling creatively, we seem to have a problem once we go behind in matches.
Yeah.
And because we don't seem to have the ability, with the other team then sits back, we don't seem to have the creativity to break that team down. Whereas I think if we get the first goal, I think that confidence will spread through the team a little bit. I still think you'd be in it because we still look with our defence is still finding its feet. I think they're decent players, but we're still working on finding the team unit. defensively. But yeah, I think the first goal could be really important, and I really, really hope that we get it, obviously, because I think if we do, that could be crucial.
So we've got Bobby saying, well, I'd start Sambi tomorrow as I think it would be unfair not to. I agree. 2-0 to Arsenal. He's going for Aubameyang and Odegaard with the goals. A good shout.
I think Kane's scoring tomorrow.
Yeah, funny enough, Alex has just said that. Alex from Cannon Fodder TV. Guys, if you're not following his channel, please hit a like on Alex's channel. He'd be much appreciated. He is flying out of the stratosphere now. He's tripled his subscribers in the last year, so that's fantastic for Alex. Alex says Kane will score as day follows night, 2-1 to Arsenal. And then Alex says, however, the Xhaka effect could derail his prediction. Yeah, I think that might hurt mine as well. G is saying, Andy, do you think Kane has given up and sticking 2 fingers up at Levy?
I don't think he's doing that. I think there's a difference between not trying hard and giving up and not going over and above, which is what he's always done previously for Spurs. So the difference between Kane before was that he would literally run through brick walls for the club and do extra training and literally drag everyone with him because he was that involved. I think what you've got now is possibly a slightly disenchanted Kane who will still give his all for the club, but maybe won't do those, you know, that extra 5% that drags the team over the line in certain games. I don't think he's actively trying to stitch us up. He's a Spurs boy. You know, I don't think he's trying to stitch us up. But I don't think he's possibly as connected with it as he has been in previous seasons. And that extra 5% can make the difference between scoring a goal and not scoring a goal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's why I mentioned to you the touches in the box, because he's just not either he's not in there or he's just I don't know, or he's
but also, I mean, like for instance, he got started out on the left-hand side on Wednesday night. Son played through the middle. It was obviously tactical.
I couldn't believe he played. We were doing the stream, and I said, "Hold on, they've got Son and Kane in it."
Yeah, he didn't play Son, but he played Kane. But it's a kind of, I don't know what's going on at the moment. There's just something strange.
I think it's the manager. I've told you 3 times. I think it's the manager. I really do. And the problem is I don't want them to sack him because I think he's a good manager, but I think the person they were after was the Brighton manager. I think he'd be a brilliant manager for Spurs, but that's just my opinion. I do like Nuno Santos, though. I do like him.
I mean, in terms of putting us on the Champions League level, then, you know, obviously Conte would have been great, but I also thought that Conte and Levy would have been a match made in hell, just like Mourinho and Levy was a match made in hell.
Well, I was told Conte wouldn't come to Arsenal because we're not in Europe.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, we had the same. We were in the kind of lower European competition. I don't think Conte was that bothered, but I think he would have come if certain conditions were met. But obviously, Levy weren't prepared to bankroll whatever Conte wanted to do, and so. But you know, at the end of the day, we don't know what the full ins and outs of the discussions are, and so you know, you have to leave it to the people who are in charge to make the choices. But all I hope is that the boys go out there today and they tomorrow and know and understand what it means to the fans and put on a performance for us. The first 45 against Chelsea was very good without being that creative. We didn't get that many. We didn't create that many chances, but we shut them down well. And that was as average as I've seen Chelsea all season in the first 45 minutes against us. But then they came out and they took over, and then they could have had 5-6 in the end. So, you know, if it weren't for Lloris, they'd have had 5 or 6. So it was, you know, Jekyll and Hyde again performance from us on Sunday. So you just got to hope we go out there and smash your backside.
So we've got here Alex is saying Kane looking across the Premier League thinking he spent the best part of his career at Spurs. he could have won major honours. Play, yeah, and look, that's why Cesc left. That's why Vieira left. That's why Thierry Henry left. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that Kane is still. My sources. I know one of the agents, James, who's and Dele Alli's agent, and those guys told me he was going for sure. So something has happened, and possibly something which Andy has spoken about in regards to Levy. And I don't think the relationship is very good, because there was a gentleman's agreement last year, which I was told about, and that hasn't been honoured. And any time that hasn't been honoured, you get an ugly situation.
Honestly, I find that particular statement really difficult to believe, because on what wasn't honoured, there is no way Levy said to Kane, "Oh, I'm definitely going to set." What I suspect Levy said to Kane was, I will, if you really want to go next season, if we don't qualify, because Kane arguably wanted to leave last season because we didn't qualify for the Champions League. Yeah. And what happened was, supposedly, they had a conversation at which Levy is supposed to have said, I'm prepared to let you, give me one more year, try and get us back in the Champions League.
That's right. That's correct.
It next year, then I will let you go.
Yeah.
But there is no way you're telling me that Levy said, I'm going to let you go for £3.50.
Oh, no, that's not. Yeah,
Levy would have said, I'll let you go as long as I get what I believe you're worth.
Yeah, so that's probably what happened. And this happened to Wilfred Zaha, when they promised Zaha he could go, then they slapped an 80 million price tag on him. And all you're doing is you're just, the owner's sticking their two fingers up to the player, and that's all they're doing. And Zaha, to me, hasn't looked the same player since. And I think we're seeing this with Harry Kane at the moment. The fact that I put those numbers out there either shows that he's just not working hard enough, or he's just lost a bit. I mean, he's a Spurs man through and through. I don't think he'll ever give up on the fans. But at the same, and that's why he's not spitting blood. Yeah, spitting blood is the worst thing a player can do when they turn on the team, turn on the owner, and all things like that. Kane's just getting his head down and getting on with it. That's all he's doing. And the only thing that would show me otherwise is if he signs a new deal. If Kane signs a new deal, which I'm hearing they're working on, but I don't know how much it would be.
Well, I think Kane's saying that they want $500,000 and Levy doesn't want to go above 300 grand apparently. So
yeah, and for Kane, it's not about the money. It's about he wants to win things. He wants to win the Premier League titles, and that's we lost Robin van Persie. He ended up scoring 37 goals for Man United in one season and won them the title. That's how it's done.
Kane doesn't strike me as a mercenary type of character. I think he does. He probably wants what he. I don't. He's perfectly entitled to ask what he's worth. If someone said to him, "We're going to give you 400 grand, 500 grand a week elsewhere," he's entitled to ask for that. I don't think that would be the deal breaker for Kane. But I think that what Kane would want is to know that in January and/or next summer, Levy's going to go out and seriously invest in the side with some real top quality. One, defensive reinforcements, and two, creative midfield reinforcements, and probably another striker as well.
Yeah, I think you need. I wouldn't be. I told you a year ago I wouldn't be playing Eric Dyer as a centre back, and he's still there. And it's just like, how have they not brought in somebody? I don't get it. We've brought in, I think, 4 centre backs since that time, and Spurs just haven't. I mean, he's serviceable, yeah. But come on, Eric Dyer as a centre back.
I agree. Look, I agree with you. I agree with you. I thought both Dyer and Sanchez were going to go. The reason he kept him is he wanted Koundé and he couldn't get Koundé.
Yeah,
Koundé wouldn't come to Spurs because we're not in the Champions League. Probably amongst other things. Probably we wouldn't pay him to be a wanted either. But and there was rumours that Sanchez would go as a make weight in that deal. That they wanted Sanchez, but we weren't offering enough on top of Sanchez to get Koundé. Basically, that was the supposed problem. But Koundé didn't want to come to us, and we're going to keep having that problem while we're not in the Champions League. Same as Arsenal found.
Yeah, same as us. Yeah,
players that you want to recruit aren't going to want to come to you if you're not in the Champions League.
Yeah,
and unless you can do like what a City could do and Chelsea could do, which is just say, right, we'll give you whatever, like 400 grand a week, come and play for us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I actually think it's the other. I think it's unless we can do what Liverpool did when they finished 8th. Liverpool went out and got Salah, Mane, and Firmino for 90 million, an average of 30 million per player, and that helped bring them one of the most dominant attacking force in the Premier League. That's what you have to do, and that's what Arsenal are trying to do. We're not going for the big names or the guys from Real Madrid who want to play in the Champions League and all this. We're trying to do what Liverpool have done, and Liverpool did it the best way. Arsenal have got a plethora of young players, young talented players, who they are looking to groom the next sort of franchise. And whether it works or not in the next year or two, we'll have to find out. I just hope Arteta's here long enough to get the fruits of his labour. That that's all I can say.
Spurs wanted Vlahovic from Fiorentina and Martinez from Inter. They're the two that Spurs wanted. Arsenal were also in for Martinez as well.
Yes, that's right.
But I mean, they're the two they wanted, but they couldn't, because
we just couldn't get. We went after 14 players this summer. From all the contacts I have at the training ground, we went in for 14 players, and 8 of those players just was not interested. I mean, the worst was Locatelli. That was just Locatelli, and Aouar made it very clear. Not so much Aouar. Aouar wouldn't have minded to come to Arsenal, but his first priority was playing in the Champions League, and he said that from day one, and he never wavered from that. Locatelli was just like, I am the only team I'm moving to go and play for is Juventus. So it was never on the cards, but it just shows you how much, Arsenal's ambition and the reality of that ambition is we're shopping in a different market.
Well, Spurs are exactly the same. Spurs have got a lot of ambition, but the reality is, if you're not in the Champions League, you aren't going to get.
You're in a different market. You're shopping at Primark instead of Harrods. You're in a different market. You can want all the best.
Maybe Waitrose instead of Harrods.
Waitrose, John Lewis. So, Cool K saying a win tomorrow would do wonders for us. Yeah, big game tomorrow for sure. Possibly career defining for Mikel. Gerard again says 2-0 again. He said it before and he's saying it again. Alex, our last comment is Alex says, I get the feeling with Kane or without new players brought in won't make him stay. He's given the club one more season and then he's off. I mean, I really don't know. I see a Robin Van Persie situation here. And Van Persie left us when he was, 29, 30? How old is Kane?
Yeah, he's 28 now. He'll be 29 next summer.
So next summer, then if he doesn't get a new deal done, then I'll probably see him off. So guys, that's it from me and Andy. I'm sorry we didn't do the Premier League show last night. All of us was busy. I just moved my daughter to campus in university. Andy, who's normally busy actually, but he makes a big effort to come on the show after tennis, and we didn't get the show done. So I hope we were only supposed to be here for half an hour, but it's so much fun talking about Arsenal and Spurs that we've run over a bit and we've enjoyed it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. Andy, thank you for joining us, mate.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoy the game tomorrow. And guys, I will be at the Emirates Stadium tomorrow, but my wife is going to help out with the stream. So hopefully the guys are going to be here to give you match day commentary. And so you'll see everybody here. And that's it from us, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the game and we'll speak to you in tomorrow with the player ratings and the live stream. Take care, everybody.